This presentation takes you through the final step of the 6-step approach to curriculum development. Step 6 is evaluation and feedback. As a quick review, you have completed Step 1. You have identified the problem. In Step 2, you identified your targeted audiences and their needs. In Step 3, you identified goals and objectives. Then in Step 4, you identified educational strategies that you would use to meet your goals and objectives. Step 5 involved locating and procuring all of the resources necessary to successfully implement your curriculum. Now in Step 6, we will look at methods to evaluate, to gain feedback on your curriculum. So we need to now concentrate on describing your plan to evaluate the effectiveness of your curriculum. This closes the loop of curriculum development. You started with identifying your program that you were going to create. You've now developed your program, you've implemented it, and it's now time to evaluate and use the feedback from that evaluation to improve your program. Or at least, for this course, develop a plan to do so. This way you will be able to secure information to provide continuous quality improvement. Oftentimes what happens in curriculum development is that we are so excited about developing a curriculum, we skip over the entire part of evaluating what we have done to get feedback to improve. And without that feedback, we really have no way of knowing whether or not the curriculum we have developed is doing what it was intended to do. So this is a crucial step. To do this, you need to develop an evaluation toolkit of sorts and understand different methods that you can use to evaluate a program. How do you plan to assess your program? What types of assessment are available? You could do a survey, for example. A survey tends to have closed-ended questions with a statement and several responses, but you need to decide who it is you want to survey. Will you survey students, faculty, employers? And as always, how will you survey? Will this be online? Will it be in a face-to-face method where you hand them a survey and a pencil? What about a questionnaire? Questionnaires tend to have open-ended questions, allowing folks to give you more depth as compared to a survey. But again, if you're going to do a questionnaire, who is your audience? Will this be given to participants? Will this be given to faculty, to employers? Will you wait and give a questionnaire to graduates, perhaps 3 months or 6 months or a year after they've completed the program? What about focus groups? You could do focus groups with students, faculty, and employers. Are these appropriate for what you are trying to gain? Again, think about these as possibilities. You could do interviews with students, faculty, or employers. And sometimes interviews are more appropriate than focus groups. If you are looking at a specific group of students, perhaps focus groups in a class would be better. But if you want to find out an individual student's experience, then an interview may be a better approach. Faculty may not be as open with you in a focus group with other faculty to hear as they may be in an interview. With regards to employers, perhaps trying to get a group of employers together would be more difficult than scheduling an individual interview. But again, your type of assessment, your method, depends on what it is you are trying to measure. You may discover that there's an achievement test that you can use. Perhaps the curriculum that you are working with will have a state board assigned to it. There may be something you could use with work keys. Are you using a retrospective pretest? This is often the best way to measure learning or perceived learning when you are using a professional development program. So if that's something that is of interest to you, contact me and we'll talk more in depth about it. What about the community college database? Is there something in there that you could use to assess? Maybe grades, looking at demographics and grades, or program completion. Again, thinking about the type of assessment that is available and what would be of most use to you. How do you plan to assess your program, and what types of assessment will you choose? You need to be able to assess every objective for your program, along with any other item that you need to better understand. To do this, you will need to review steps 3, 4, and 5. This means to look at your goals and objectives from step 3, your educational strategies that you identified in step 4, as well as your implementation from step 5. Then you can add columns for evaluation and feedback. You will want to include the method that you will use to gather the data to support the fact that you have met that objective and that goal. So this could be a survey, interview, focus group, database. You will want to address the timeline, as in when it is that you plan to administer these tools. When is the best time to survey? You could survey students every semester, and that's fine, but you would need to state that. When are you interviewing? You may decide that interviewing is best done at one particular point and then repeated at another time. Again, think through your process. That becomes your timeline. Finally, any costs that are associated with evaluation need to be addressed, because remember, part of developing a curriculum is also a budget, and while I'm not asking you to establish a budget per se, I'm asking you to start thinking about the associated costs in creating a program. Now, hopefully all of you have had a chance to look at class resources, because in there I have given very explicit instructions as to how you are to set up the assignment for the curriculum. I've also explained in there how to do your oral presentation of your project. In with that is a file that you are to use. You are to add that into your Word document where you are creating your curriculum assignment, and that will address this whole issue of steps 3, 4, 5, and 6. So, let's take a look at this in more detail. You have your goal, your objective, and then in this first column you would need to record the resources needed to meet this goal. If there are none, if you don't need people, you don't need to purchase anything, you don't need to secure anything, then you would put none. Don't leave it blank, but put none. You need a placeholder. Next column is costs associated with your resources. If you need software that you have to purchase, you'd put the name of the software in column 1, column 2, how much it cost. If you don't need a resource and you've put none, then you put 0 for cost. Again, don't leave it blank. Next, you'll have a description of the evaluation method of the objective. So, survey faculty, focus groups with employers, whatever you plan to do. Your data collection tool that you're going to use would be the name of the survey or focus group protocol. It could be the name of a file that's in your college database. It could even be results from work keys, whatever it is you're using. Timeline for evaluation of this objective includes when it is you plan to gather the data. Are you gathering it every semester from students? Are you going to do a survey of the students perhaps 3 months after they graduate and again 6 months after that to see if there's any other items they need to know that they may now understand that something else would have helped them, would have been more valuable to them? Again, think through the timeline. And then you'll be doing the costs associated with evaluation of this objective. There may be costs involved in this. If you are creating a paper and pencil survey and you have to distribute that, then you may end up putting a price in for copying and paper. You may be doing this online. If you're doing a focus group and you would do pizza or sodas, then that would be a cost. Again, I am not asking that you actually set this up. I'm asking you to plan this out. This is what administrators do. They set up plans, they set up timelines so that they know exactly what they need to do at what time. And then you'll have a total cost for that objective. Again, if you look at the Class Resources tab in the left-hand column in LAMP, you will also see that I've posted a sample one of these filled in to give you an idea of what I'm expecting. So please spend some time reviewing that. Just a reminder, Class Resources, the curriculum assignment. In review, you can use surveys, you can use a questionnaire. We didn't really mention this. This is not used often, but there may be a point where you could use observations if you want to make sure that someone has learned a specific skill that you could only measure through observing. That may be something to consider. Focus groups, interviews, your retrospective pretest, achievement test, or the community college database. And again, you can use a combination of these. Choose your method as to the appropriateness to measure your objectives. As normal, if you have any questions, please post these in the Cyber Cafe. I'm sure other people will have similar questions. And I'd like you to arrange a video conference with me so we can discuss your methods, and I will help you locate methods or generate methods that would be appropriate for your objectives. Again, you will need to have steps 3, 4, and 5 completed, and we can work together on 6. This concludes the final presentation on the 6-step approach.